For many sports fans, the city of Boston and New York are largely considered the mecca for all sports. These are two cities with passionate fan bases with a long historical and bitter rivalry towards one another. And in the NFL, the New York Jets and the New England Patriots have fought each other in the same division since 1970 after the AFL-NFL merger. The Patriots currently have the edge in this head-to-head matchup, winning 69 of the 124 games played, and over the last 20 meetings, New England have won every game except for just 2. This stretches even further back since the Brady-Belichick era. However, there was a short period in time in the last couple decades when the rivalry got reignited as the Jets began challenging the Patriots for the division crown. And that's not to say these games were ever watered down during this period, but rivalries always have that extra flair when both teams are contending. Anyways, this period of time was largely known as the Belichick vs. Ryan era. That being said, on January 16, 2011, the two teams would face off in the playoffs for only their third time in their 50-year NFL history. This was a game where the two teams would begin trash-talking one another and even involved one of the coaches. So before we delve into the game, we're going to briefly touch on what transpired in the build-up to this match.
Billy Martin, straight from Brooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. Never taking shorts because Brooklyn's the borough.
I just knew that this is where I wanted to be. You know, I understand the pressures and the things like that to go with the New York media and the expectations of a team coming off a 9-win season.
On January 19, 2009, Rex Ryan was announced as the new head coach for the New York Jets. This was a team that had gone 9-7 the season before under Eric Mangini, but ultimately finished third in the division and missed out on the playoffs. Rex Head came from Baltimore, where he was the defensive coordinator to help reshape the team and bring more physicality, as the Jets, after going 8-3, lost 4 of its last 5 games the season before. The team already had a strong core of players on defense that included the likes of Darrelle Revis, Antonio Cromartie, David Harris, Sean Ellis, and Calvin Pace. But what they needed was a quarterback, and in the 2009 NFL Draft, the Jets traded up to the 5th spot to select USC quarterback Mark Sanchez. So, in his first season in charge of the team, Ryan took the Jets to a 9-7 record and was 1 game away from the Super Bowl. Clearly, he had placed his imprint on the team and was looking to take the Jets to the next level in his second season. The Patriots and Jets faced off in the regular season in weeks 2 and 13, with the home team winning both games. The first game in New York was close up until the 4th quarter, when the Jets pulled away with a victory. This was the game that had the famous Revis catch where Moss blew by the corner, who ended up pulling his hammy. It also featured the rare time when a quarterback actually overthrew Randy Moss as Cromartie picked off Brady's pass in the end zone. However, the Week 13 game in Foxborough was a completely different story. Both teams came into the game with 9-2 records, with the Jets holding first place in the division after their Week 2 win. At Gillette Stadium, the Patriots pounced on their rival 45-3, with Tom throwing 4 TD passes, including 2 of which were in the direction of Jets DB Antonio Cromartie. The first was a 25-yard TD strike to Deion Branch, and the second was a 4-yard pass in the end zone to Brandon Tate. To top things off, on the second last touchdown pass to Aaron Hernandez, many of the Jets players took Brady's celebration as a slight. The quarterback proceeded to celebrate the TD in the direction of the Jets sideline and was also allegedly accused of pointing at them throughout the game. The Patriots went on to finish the campaign going 14-2 for the division title, while the Jets lost 2 of its last 4 games against the Dolphins and Bears and finished 11-5 for a wild-card berth. New England had the number 1 offense, and both teams finished in the top 10 for scoring defense. So the Wednesday before the divisional round, Antonio Cromartie, in an interview with the New York Daily News, challenged the quarterback to throw his way, on top of calling him an asshole and ending it off with a "fuck him." And by doing this, the DB is potentially shouldering all the blame if the Jets come up short. Putting stuff like that out there, especially for Tom, you're basically tempting fate. And this was Tom Brady's reaction from reporters after hearing Jets cornerback Antonio Cromartie's thoughts about him.
I've been called worse. So I'm sure there's a long list of people that feel that way. But you know, he's a good player. I mean, Revis is a great player. You know, they got a great secondary, and you know, they're one of the best defenses we face. So you know, we're gonna spend a lot of time preparing for them. What they're capable of doing over there, and to shut down the Colts offense like they did is pretty impressive. Because we know how good that offense is.
While trash-talking Brady hasn't always been the best career choice for many, that's really never stopped others from doing so. However, if you thought all the trash-talking was one-sided, you thought wrong. In fact, both teams would have representatives in the war of words leading up to this game. It even got to the point where Jets head coach Rex Ryan would be dragged into the middle of this as Patriots wide receiver Wes Welker gave a press conference that was one for the ages.
He is who he is, and he does a great job of making sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's putting their best foot forward. You can't just stick your toe in the water, especially, you got your foot up in the air. Want to go out there and just put your best foot forward. He's got great feet, he has good feet. He's another guy who's great feet. You want to make sure that, you're putting your best foot forward out there. Let's go out there and being good little foot soldiers. You definitely have to be on your toes and make sure that you're ready to go.
During his address to the media, Welker began making numerous foot references in response to the Rex Ryan foot fetish reports. Weeks earlier in the month of December, a video was posted on Deadspin of a woman who appears to be Ryan's wife and a cameraman who sounds a lot like Rex in the background, praising her feet in a sexual way. But if that wasn't enough of a storyline, this was also a revenge game for former Chargers running back LaDainian Tomlinson, who recently endured 2 painful consecutive playoff exits to the hands of the Patriots. Guys, before we jump into the game, do me a favor and turn on all notifications. Some of you have complained you're not getting my new uploads on your home pages. Also, it really helps promote the video across the platform, and you'd be doing me a huge favor. Lastly, if you haven't checked out my last video about the controversial ending that started the Ravens-Patriots rivalry, you can do so at the end of this video. So in front of a crowd of over 68,000 fans, the game kicked off at Gillette Stadium, where the two teams came out of the tunnel. The Jets got off to the perfect start after Brady on his first drive overthrew a pass intended for Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, but went straight into the hands of David Harris, who returned it for 30 yards after a last-ditch tackle from Algie Crumpler. And the next sequence of plays are pretty hard to watch. First was Sean Green, who after getting the ball handed to him from Sanchez, got tangled up with his QB for a loss of 3 yards. Then a short pass to LT saw the former Charger tackled by his own offensive lineman. The Jets ended up having to kick for the field goal, however, they botched that also. Nick Folk missed the 30-yard kick, and the Jets missed capitalizing on a huge opportunity early in the game. The Patriots on their next drive saw them move the ball into New York's red zone after Tom completed a huge pass to Crumpler for 28 yards. But after a dropped TD pass from Crumpler and a 9-yard sack from Sean Ellis, the Pats settled for 3 points to take the lead. After both teams traded punts, the second quarter saw Sanchez get his team on the score sheet. First, he connected on a 37-yard pass to Braylon Edwards, followed by a 7-yard throw to LT, who ran it in for a touchdown. The next few drives would see each team exchange punts again as Tom began struggling against his Jets defense. They were doing a great job in coverage and clogging up space, and it wouldn't be until towards the end of the first half where we saw a change on the scoreboard. Belichick, after seeing his offense stall, made a gutsy call at his own 38 to go for a fake punt. However, the play was muffed by Patrick Chung, and the Jets now had the ball in great field position with a little over 2 minutes left in the half. Mark Sanchez on this drive connected with LT for 16 yards before hitting Braylon Edwards, who muscled his way into the end zone. The first half ended with the Jets walking into the tunnel with a 14-3 lead. The third quarter saw the defense on both teams take over the game. While Tom had tons of time in the pocket, he just could not find an open receiver. It didn't help when one side of the field was completely off limits, as Tom hardly ever looked in the direction of Revis Island. And then on the other side, you have Antonio Cromartie, who's no slouch either. A former Pro Bowler and a former first-team All-Pro, this Jets backfield was always going to give the Patriots receiving corps a lot of trouble. However, late in the quarter, Brady was able to hit Gronkowski on a mismatch with Dwight Lowry for a huge 37 yards that set up a 2-yard TD pass to Algie Crumpler to bring the score 14-11 after converting a 2-point play. As the fourth quarter got underway, Jets QB Mark Sanchez immediately answered back in 4 plays. The first was a short pass to Jericho Cotchery in zone coverage, and the receiver was able to extend the play for 58 yards. This then set up a short 7-yard TD pass to Santonio Holmes, who made a great play, coming down with the ball on one knee. So this next Patriots drive was going to be very crucial as time was slowly ticking down. Tom orchestrated a 7.5-minute drive that included 4 first downs, but in the end, the Jets D came up huge as they shut down New England's offense and took over possession of the ball on downs. The Pats offense, with the wind blowing in their face, elected to gamble on 4th and 13 instead. After New York went 3-out, the Patriots caught a break as Edelman returned the punt for 41 yards, which set up a field goal right at the 2-minute mark. With the score now 21-14, New England had to go for the onside kick, and guess who picked up the ball? Antonio Cromartie, the same player who called out Brady just days before the game. The DB, while playing special teams, returned the ball for 23 yards and proceeded to silence the crowd at Gillette Stadium. New York would cap this drive off with a 16-yard TD run by Sean Green, which prompted a celebration from Rex Ryan, who slalomed all the way to the end zone. The Patriots were now down by 2 touchdowns, and it would literally take a miracle for them to tie this game. Brady threw a late TD pass to Deion Branch, but the Pats had another unsuccessful onside kick again, and with that, the Jets finally had beaten their arch nemesis in the playoffs. New England were eliminated from the playoffs, while New York booked a trip to Pittsburgh for their second consecutive AFC Championship game. The Steelers wound up defeating the Jets 24-19, while this playoff win versus the Patriots at the time seemed to be a statement game that could have changed the fortunes of the franchise's future. It really didn't, and 2010 would be the last time the New York Jets made the playoffs. The Patriots continued to stay on course and dominated the AFC East for the next 9 seasons. However, this is still a rivalry that still remains strong for every Bostonian and New Yorker and should likely see more intense matchups between the two in the near future.